live in the moment. And I have to stop myself. Maybe you're gonna have to do the same. Stop yourselves and think about what you're doing right now. That time with your wife or your girlfriend or your son or your daughter or your dog or your parents. Think about it. Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the Ronin Leadership Podcast. It's Monday, the Monday after Easter, and I hope that all of you who celebrate Easter had a good holiday. We spent time with Janice and her mother and father, went to a local place to have Easter brunch, and it was really a good time. But I hope all of you took advantage of the holiday weekend to kind of distress a little bit and just enjoy your friends and family. As I always say at the beginning of our podcasts, thank you, number one, for listening. It's awesome, and we're continuing to grow our listenership and getting some really good feedback. Actually heard from someone in TikTok recently who liked the last podcast I did on public speaking, and it said that it really helped him with his presentation. So keep the comments coming, keep the suggestions coming. Certainly, if you like what you're hearing on this podcast, please pass the word, tell your friends, pass along on social media, click the subscribe button. Also, if you haven't had a chance to, please pick up a copy of my book, The Art of Ronin Leadership, Strategy, Execution, and Sustained Success. You can find it on our website, mikehowardauthor.com, and also on Amazon. And certainly would like to send you a copy and tell me what you think about it. I'm currently in the midst of writing a follow-up to this book right now. It's taking me a little bit longer because last year I didn't have podcasting, and this year I'm doing the podcast. But it's all good, and really happy to be engaging with you once again. Topic I want to tackle today has to do with with worry, and it struck me that this is an appropriate topic given what's going on in the world today. If you look at a snapshot of just what's happening, you have the situation in Ukraine with the Russians attacking Ukraine and all the global turmoil that's caused. You still have COVID, which has, due to China's zero COVID policy, lockdown policy, I should say, major parts of China, including Shanghai, as we speak right now, are shut down, which causes some consternation in the world from an economic point of view. You have inflation that's really high in the United States right now, and people are having harder times to buy groceries or to fill their gas tanks up. Political divisions are rampant, especially in the United States, but I suspect most of the world. We have a border crisis that's looming on our southern borders. We have rising crime rates in a lot of major cities. We just talked to some relatives the other day who had been contemplating at one point maybe taking a trip to New York, but with everything that's going on there, they don't feel safe going into New York City, which is a shame because it's a beautiful city. And, maybe a decade or so ago, they had gotten a lot of the crime situation underhand, but now it's come back full force, not just there, but in other parts of the country. And you have the stock markets, going up and down. There doesn't seem to be a consistency. And so there's just a lot of things going on in the world. From a leadership perspective, this thing about worry is something that you really need to get a handle on. We're all human beings, right? We have emotions. Things affect us. We watch the news. The news tends to be all about whatever is negative, right? I mean, they Surely they point out the facts, but there's always an editorial slant. And the idea of the news, in my opinion, is to keep people's anxieties high and kind of get them hooked on seeing, what's next in the news. And so there are a lot of people in this world, I believe, and a lot of leaders that are they're kind of wrapped really tightly because they've got a lot of worries. Think about all I just talked about. Now think about you as a leader in an enterprise, small, big, medium, whatever, and you're in charge of people. You have budgets to manage. You have HR issues, personal issues that you're dealing with always. And then whatever your line of business is, there are business goals to be met. There are obstacles a lot of times to make those business goals. And so there's just a lot of stuff that goes on. And my former profession as chief security officer, you wake up every morning and you'd want to find out what's going on in the world because as a multinational, anything that happens in the world will affect your employees. If a bombing goes off in London or in Paris or in Istanbul, and that was my doggy barking, so don't worry about it. If we have a presence there, we need to make sure our people are safe. We make sure everybody's accounted for. We need to make sure that our travelers that are en route or have just landed are all communicated with, make sure that they're okay. There's a lot of stuff going on. And God forbid, if any of your employees are hurt in any kind of incident, then you've got to take some other measures. So in the world of security, where I came from, or intelligence, these kind of things are always uppermost in your mind, and it can cause you to worry. That on top of the news, on top of everything that's going on in the world. So what can you do about this, right, as a leader? There are a couple things that I did back in the day, and I told you, besides being a Christian, I'm into Stoicism. There's a lot of similarities between the two in terms of attitude towards life and how you confront the uncertainties of life. One of the greatest Stoics was Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. Wrote a book called Meditations. Some of you, maybe a lot of you, know about it. It's a great book, written ages ago, but the wisdom of that book transcends all time. A couple of things he said about for the topic of worry. One of them was, "I'm an old man and have had many worries, but most have never come to pass." Another one said, "Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present." The Bible refers to worry as, why worry? To paraphrase, why worry about today? Tomorrow will have its own issues, right? And will also worry add any extra days to your life? Absolutely not, right? So the Bible also talks about worry. There's a verse in the Bible that says something to the effect of, why worry about today? Tomorrow will have its own issues. And basically, God's grace is good for you today. And another one really says, will worrying will add any extra days to your life? They will not. So I point these out because what both, Marcus Aurelius and the Bible, what we're trying to get a handle on here is life is going to be uncertain. That's a given, right? Every day, you don't know what's going to happen. There are things under your control, and there are things that are not in your control. The stock market is not in my control. So if I'm an investor and I decide to invest in the stock market, then the ups and downs of the market are nothing I can control. For me to worry about it, which I know some people do on a daily basis, does me no good. It just keeps me anxious, Whatever things I can control in terms of working financial advisors or if you're a day trader, trying to make the best decisions you can, then that's what you do. But as a leader, you'll be bombarded with all kinds of pressures on a daily basis. Some things are fixed. You've got staff meetings at 10 o'clock and another one at 1 o'clock and another one at 4 o'clock. Okay, great. And in between that, in my case, again, the example, some bad terrorist issue goes on around the world, happens that afternoon. Boom, you're torn away to do something else. You had no control over that, but you do have a control over how you approach all of these situations, right? And one of it is just to remember that principle. The things that you can control, I won't use the word worry, but at least those are things that you have some ability to manipulate, right? But the things that you don't have control over, you accept it. You accept the fact that whatever's happening in your business, there's a supply chain issue, or there's a labor shortage issue, or what have you, you just accept it. That's part and parcel of being a leader. And when you decided to become a leader, you accepted the responsibilities of dealing with those kinds of issues. People are looking up to you to make decisions, right? You make better decisions when you're not worried and fretting over everything. Doesn't mean that you live in a Pollyanna world where nothing bothers you. Like I said earlier, we're humans. But your ability to rationally divorce yourself from the immediacy of something you can't control and then try to logically think through that particular situation is a way that you can tackle it, right? I think another strategy besides really consciously thinking about what you can control and what you can't control, right? And not worrying about those things you can't control, but figuring out ways rationally, logically to deal with it and come up to decisions and find ways to overcome whatever obstacles in your way. Another thing would be to just remember inputs. And what I mean by that is, I love news. I'm a news junkie. I want to stay abreast of what's going on in the world. As Chief Security Officer, it was incumbent upon me, or as a former intelligence officer, it was incumbent upon me to make sure I knew what was going on in the world. You can't bury your head in the sand, right? You can't. But if you're wedded to, almost non-stop monitoring of the news, it's going to affect you. Because news bureaus around the world are not interested in providing you with any happy news, good news. They're interested in making sure that you stay anxious and stay committed to watching their particular networks. So they keep providing, obviously they're reporting on what's going on in the world, but this constant stream is negative. And all that negativity is not going to do you any good as a human being, as a leader. So what I'm saying is be disciplined enough to figure out your own rhythm when it comes to absorbing what's going on in the world. Something that I tend to do is I curate my news, right? And so I've got various news sources, whether it's CNBC, whether it's CNN International, whether it's Fox News or BBC or Al Jazeera, whatever. I'll curate different things based on topics that I want. And various parts of the day, I'll look at those things just to kind of see what's happening in the world. But it's not a constant thing, right? It's not a constant stream. Same thing with Twitter, right? Just be mindful and disciplined about your Twitter feeds. And, you want to stay abreast of the world, but if you're getting constant Twitter feeds about bad things going on in the world, you may not want to, may want to kind of control the settings a little bit so that, you are actually pulling a lot of the information at your own time frame and your own volition versus a constant pinging, a push from Twitter, which then starts to, oh, gee, another bombing. Oh, well, the market crashed today. Oh, again, these things that this is what you can control, so you control that part of it. Certainly, I watch news on TV. I watch certain programs. I tend not to watch the nightly news because I think for the most part, the major networks they kind of sensationalize things, and I just, I rather not go that route and figure out my own way to stay abreast of what's going on in the world. I think that would be a good thing for all of you to do. The other part of that, sort of the side by side to how much news you get inputted into you, and how you control and curate that, is what are the other things that you're inputting, right? Are there good things, inspirational things? For me, I read the Bible. For me, I read a lot of things on Stoicism. For me, I delve into a novel, right? Just kind of escape from it. Some action novel, right? And, or for me, I put on, lately it's been, okay, I'm tired of seeing everything going on in the world, and I want to decompress. So I've got old Seinfeld episodes I watch, or Everybody Loves Raymond, just whatever things that make you laugh and make you sort of get away from stuff. I think that's important. So those are some inputs that I do on a daily basis to balance out, whatever's going on in the world. Because again, you as a leader, your head cannot be buried in the sand. You have to know what's going on. There's a reality out there, and that's okay. The reality of bad things or uncertainties out there, that's fine. It's your reaction to them. It's how you comport yourself, how you go through your day, through your week, through your month, through your year, in dealing with those uncertainties is actually going to really make a difference in your attitude, and also in how you lead your team. Remember, I've said many times in podcasts and other things, your team's always looking at you, right? If you're a worrywart, if you're constantly, biting your nails, or, seem like you're in a constant state of, oh, woe is me, and, blah, blah, blah. First of all, they're going to lose confidence in you. And number two, God forbid that they actually start to emulate you, right? You don't have to be fake about it. There's not this false bravado. But you have to be calm in the midst of the storm. And being able to rationalize within yourself the reality that uncertainties are out there, the reality that the world is often a very challenging, unpredictable, dangerous place, but also the reality that you can control what you can control, and what you can't control, you mitigate with reason, with good business strategy, with the support of friends and colleagues, supportive bosses. You can get through anything. One of the things that I mentioned with Marcus Aurelius, when he talks about, as an old man, I've had many, many worries, but most of them didn't come to fruition. That's what happens with most worries. It's been my opinion. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. And, if we go back in time to, let's say, 20 years ago, and I'm at CIA or whatever, on a Monday morning after Easter, and something happens in the world, and I'm dealing with it, and I'm worried about it, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm working the issue. Do I remember that now? No, I don't. Or maybe it was something I was worried about that actually didn't come to fruition, right? So a lot of the things that you tend to worry about aren't going to happen anyway. So why waste time worrying about it? I just took a few notes here because I want to make sure I get these points down. I got that part. Yeah. So I think also when it comes to worry, there is a relationship between the physical and the mental and the emotional. So don't sit behind your desk all day long fretting. Get out, walk, clear your head, take breaks. work out if that's your thing, take a walk, whatever it is. Ways to just take yourself away from the situation for a while, clear your head, and then move back into the fray. That's very important. It's extremely important, and it would also help you with longevity of life and also your feeling of well-being. So I think that's really important too. Worry is a killer. Scientifically, it's been proven medically that worrying can increase your blood pressure, your cortisol levels. It affects your sleep. It affects your relationships. The more stress you put on your body, and a lot of that can come from worry, it can have a deleterious effect on your body. So that's something to remember, that physical aspect of worry. Again, what's it doing to you? What's it doing to your mind? What's it doing to your spirit? And what's it doing to your body? So that's something else to consider. We're not robots. We're human beings. We're flesh and blood. We have emotions, as I said earlier. We're going to have times when we're worried about something, right? But you have to keep in mind the main principle of, if you can't control it, then why are you obsessing over it? Because there's nothing you can do about it, right? What you can do is learn to live with whatever that situation is, and then concentrate on those areas that you can control, right? And then in terms of the areas that you can't control, have a different mindset, have a reset in your mind and your heart in terms of that particular situation. If you can't do anything about it, then the best thing you can do is work on the areas that you can do something about and make a difference there, right? Eventually things will resolve, and whatever your problems are on your plate today, they won't be on your plate a month from now or a year from now. I want you as leaders to not just know how to make great business decisions and come up with great strategies and motivate your teams, but I also want you to take care of yourselves. I suspect there are too many people in leadership positions today that are doing harm to themselves mentally and physically because they worry too much. Now, I'm pretty much of an open book, so I can tell you, I inherited some traits of worry from my mother. My mother's a wonderful woman, passed away years ago, 2008. But she tended to worry. That was kind of her thing. And obviously, growing up with her, I kind of got some of those tendencies too. But I've had to work on them over the years to make sure that I don't fall into the same trap of worrying about every little thing, because it does me no good. All right. You may be in a similar situation where you've learned behavior in terms of worrying from relatives or even other leaders that you're working for. But at the end of the day, you own this, right? You own your reaction to everything external that's happening in your world. You own it. One of the best things I would say to do, and I've preached this for years, is to read biographies. Biographies of people, leaders who have gone through a lot of tough times, whether they've dealt with world wars, whether they've dealt with health crisis, personal issues, whatever, or all those things. Reading those biographies gives you insight into this thing called resilience. Resilience is a very important part of combating worry. So you read these biographies, whether it's, again, Churchill, Lincoln, Gandhi, what have you, and you find nuggets within these biographies. You find nuggets of wisdom and how they dealt with the situation, and and they weren't always perfect. Most of the leaders that you read about in our biographies were not perfect. They may have tended to worry sometimes too much, but in terms of the longevity and their consistency of how they dealt with problems, worrying was not something that they dwelt upon. They had to act. You had to move forward. And again, the things you can control, fine, I'm going to do something about it. Things that you can't control, stop obsessing and worrying about it. Move on, right? It'll make your head so much more clear. It makes things so much easier. A lot of the burdens that you have put upon yourself get lifted, right? Yeah, I don't like the inflation issue. I don't like markets going up and down. I don't like what's going on in Ukraine. I don't like that crime is in certain parts of the country have gone up. I myself cannot do anything about that. So I want to be informed about it, but I'm not going to dwell on it. I'm not going to obsess about it. Because that's the way I roll. That's the way I want to comport myself. There's so many other things that I need to be doing, right? Right now I'm podcasting, writing a book, making some speeches, need to take time for, the new puppy and my wife. There are a lot of things going on in my life, even though I'm retired. Why do I want to waste any minute of that time worrying about stuff I have no control over, right? I should. And I think the last point I want to make on this topic of worry is, it's interesting. The similarities between the Bible and Stoicism. It's amazing, right? And certainly the Stoics, knew of what was going on, in the days of Jesus and the scriptures and all that. So it obviously there's a symbiotic relationship. But one theme really stands out too, besides the not worry, in both disciplines, is the idea of living in the now. And that's something I'm constantly working on. I'm not perfect at it, because again, I have that my mom's DNA, right? And there are times when I'm looking at the week and I'm thinking about something that's supposed to go down on Thursday, and it's Monday, but I look outside the window here and it's a beautiful sunny day, and right now I'm podcasting and I'm enjoying it. Am I actually living in the moment, living in the now, and enjoying the now? And I think that's another great way of combating worry. So let's say you're at your desk, at your office, whatever business you're in, and you're faced with some business issue, some problem that's now come on your desk. You're going to have to deal with it. It may be something that you totally have no control over, or maybe you may have some control over, or whatever, right? So you're going to delve into the issue, you're going to delve into the problem with your team, and you're going to help solve it, mitigate it, do whatever you have to do, right? But may not be a one-off situation. Maybe something that, it's going to take a while to unravel, right? So you kind of have two courses of action here. When you go home, and I get it, I was guilty of it, right? When you go home, are you going to fire up your laptop and think about this problem and just work it, or are you going to enjoy being home? Enjoy the fact that you had a car to drive to get you home, right? Or you had money in your pocket for bus fare to get you home. Are you going to ever think about the fact that you have a roof over your head, that you have food in the refrigerator, right? That you have a TV that you can watch for entertainment? that you have a bed to sleep in. Maybe like us, you have a new puppy, right? And, you know, these things, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. So why worry about tomorrow? Why let worry permeate yourself to the point where you're neglecting or you're not seeing what's happening right in front of you? The beauty of things happening right in front of you. The fact, right now I'm thinking about, I'm doing this podcast, I'm enjoying it. But I can breathe without effort when some people can't. I have full faculty of my limbs, right? And I'm healthy. And I'm enjoying the sun. But whatever your milieu is, whatever your world is, remember that to appreciate the now. Even in the midst of that problem, and that problem landed on your desk. So that problem is on your desk because you're a leader. You're a leader because your higher ups felt that you had what it took to lead a team or a group or a unit or whatever, right? This problem that landed on your desk, this business problem, means that you're employed, that you're getting paid to handle this business issue. So if you, and I'm not saying this is going to happen all the time, because I've been in the moment too, where you're just wrestling with it. Oh man, I got to deal with this. So let's get the troops together and let's just figure this out. But whenever you can, take a step back and think about, okay, it's a bad situation. I can control this. I can't control that. I got to report the higher up status on whatever at a certain period of time. But they're looking on me as a leader to get this done. That's a great thing, right? Because not everybody can do this. No, not everybody can be in a leadership position and do this. So they have confidence in me. And I'm employed. And I have a team. And I have people that can help me. And so take the negatives, the worries, turn them into positives, right? By learning to live in the moment. Again, it's a discipline like everything else. It's not going to happen all the time. Maybe I have the luxury of being able to do that more because I'm retired. But again, even in retirement, as I said, I keep plenty busy. So there are times when I don't live in the moment and I have to stop myself. Maybe you're going to have to do the same. Stop yourselves and think about what you're doing right now. That time with your wife or your girlfriend or your son or your daughter or your dog or your parents. Think about the joy of that moment, of living and breathing and being, right? When there are so many people in desperate circumstances where you are not. And it will hopefully bring things into perspective. Again, you can't get away from worry. You can't get away from the bad things going on in the world. I don't want you to. The big part of leadership is not running away and hiding from problems. It's confronting them and dealing with them head on. But dealing with them in a way that you are able to approach problems and decisions with less worry, more reason, more business strategy, more thought, right? And obviously then giving your team confidence in themselves and in you and your ability to manage whatever the situation is. Worrying is a killer. It won't do anything for you. We're all going to worry. We're all going to have degrees of worry. But that's the key, degrees of worry. What you can control are the things I talked about, right? You can control your inputs, whether worldly inputs, like I'm talking about the news and stuff like that, or just watching Seinfeld. You control the inputs and how much you take in, right? You control all that. And you control whether you live in the now, right? You can control, the fact that that worry is a killer. And you want longevity. You want longevity in your career. You want longevity in your physical health and long life. why do anything like that can be detrimental to it? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. It just struck me that I suspect a lot of leaders tend to worry, and I can empathize because I've been there, and even to this day, I make it a conscious effort to wrestle that thing called worry. But if you can just discipline your mind in terms of the things that you can control and not control, and control your inputs, and also remember to live in the now, to be present, and to appreciate the things that you're doing now, the things that you have now. And also, finally, to remember, as I did that, example of me being in CIA, 20 plus years ago, whatever's on your plate now, 20 years ago, 10 years from now, you won't even remember it, right? So yes, you're a business person, deal with your business problems, but deal with it in a way that you manage the worry and the worry doesn't manage you. So that's all I have for today. I hope you got something out of it. If you want to send comments, please do. You can do it on our website, mikehowardauthor.com, but certainly through, all of my social media sites, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Also, if any of you are interested in speaking to me in person, you can sign up on my website for half an hour and just chit chat, just free consultation, and just find out what's going on. Again, please pick up a copy of my book, The Art of Ronin Leadership, and let me know what you think about it. Please hit the subscribe button, and please tell your friends about this podcast. We have some interesting guests coming up pretty soon. I try to keep the people that we bring on board very diverse in terms of backgrounds and what enterprises they're in and what perspectives they bring when it comes to this thing called leadership. So anyway, I would encourage you to have a wonderful week. Don't worry, right? That song, "Don't Worry, Be Happy." That's not a bad thing to say every so often. But the idea, again, remember, is you can control what you think about and how that translates into worry. And I guarantee you, if you work on it and you start to tame that worry beast, your life will be so much better. Your decision making will be clearer, and your attitude towards life, towards business, towards your personal affairs will be so much better, right? Don't let worry interfere with any of that. So until next time, stay safe, have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon.